In today's video I will show you how to make a German covered apple cake, and it somewhat resembles an American apple pie, so it's perfect for Thanksgiving. The very special thing about this recipe is that the dough for this cake is made from two different doughs that are kneaded together later in the process. The ingredients for this cake are, like always, on my blog, and the blog post link will be at the very end of this video. And of course you can switch between the US customary and the metric system in that recipe. So what you need is some flour, milk, some sugar, some vanilla paste, and if you don't want to use that, you can also use some vanilla extract. I'm personally preferring the paste, which has a little more taste, and I will put a link for this paste underneath this video in the description box. Then you need some salt, an egg, and some yeast. Now for the second dough you will need again some vanilla paste or extract, some salt, some butter, some sugar and some flour. And when I say butter, I always use unsalted butter because in Germany we do not use salted butter at all. Then for the filling we need apples, of course, some lemon juice, some butter and walnuts. And at the very end the cake will be glazed with some confectioner's sugar and some lemon juice. The first thing to do is to create the yeast dough. So I'm taking the flour and the sugar, and then I am adding the lukewarm milk, the yeast, and I'll quickly give this a mix. And I'm adding the egg. Pinch of salt, some vanilla paste, and the butter. So, and once I have created a very nice dough, I am transferring it to a different bowl because I need this one for the second dough that I have to create. So this goes in here, and I cover this and let it brew for about 50 to 60 minutes. Meanwhile, I'll create the second dough, and for that I'm just adding all these ingredients together. And then I'll just combine everything in this bowl. Okay, this goes into the fridge and should chill for at least 20 minutes. So now it's time to prepare the apples. I will remove the skin and then I will cut them into slices. Now to prevent oxidation, which means that the apples could turn brown, it's starting here already a little bit, I'm putting some lemon juice over them and mix this a little bit in. And I'll also cover it with a plate. Set this aside for a moment. And now I'm chopping the walnuts. I'm continuing with the filling. For that I will have to melt the sugar, and I just realized that I didn't show the sugar for the filling in the beginning of this video. So sugar for the filling is also an ingredient. I will just put it into the pan. And I simply let this melt now. Once it's melted, I will add the butter. And once the caramel has loosened from the pan, I'm also adding the nuts and the apples. And then I let it cook for about 5 minutes. This is what it looks like in the end, not very much liquid left. The melting of the sugar takes a little time, so be patient with that. Don't think it's not working, it just takes a really long time. Okay, so let's put this aside. And I'm now continuing with the dough. And as I said before, these two doughs that I created need to be mixed together. You can see the yeast dough. It took a little longer than an hour, but it eventually proved quite nicely. So, this has combined. As you can see, it's one dough now. Looks very nice. And I want to knead this a little bit more by hand. Just making sure that this is combined very well. All right, this looks good. So now I'm taking 2/3 of this dough and I will roll it out for putting it into the baking pan. And I've already prepared this baking pan. It's a 10-inch or 26-centimeter baking pan that can be opened later. Measure about the right amount. Put this aside. And I will roll this now to a little more than 10-inch. It's more like 11.5-inch or 35 centimeters. Okay, now I have to transfer that into the baking pan. And of course I greased this baking pan thoroughly. The oven is currently preheating to 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius. That's for a convection oven. If you have a regular oven, then you would preheat it to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 to 180 degrees Celsius. And there you can hear it's already at the temperature. Okay. Now the filling goes in here. Okay, now I flip this over. Minus a little bit, will be rolled out again. Now I own 2 of these 10-inch baking pans, so I can use the bottom of the other baking pan and I can just use that to make the right shape and size, like this. And now it will be perfectly fitting on top of everything. And I can't resist to make a little bit of a decoration. This is a pumpkin, but I can just pretend that it's an apple by, pulling this a little bit to the side, like this. And that's it. So this goes now into the oven. It will bake for about 50 minutes. There's no brushing on this cake. It's just going into the oven just as it is. Now here is the finished cake. I have to let it cool completely before I glaze it, so I have to wait a little longer. When the cake is cooled, it's finally time to glaze it. Yes, I can't wait to try this later. So I'm mixing the lemon juice with the confectioner's sugar. And then I'm simply pouring this on the cake. I don't want it to be too thick, so I'm brushing it everywhere where it's too thick, and I also want it to go down a little bit on the edge here. Yes, well, now this has to dry and then it is ready to be served. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe. There's also a donation button down there. So if you want to support my work and my recipes, I will be grateful for any donations. Thank you for watching and being part of my German Recipes community.